Keenan Mall were just standing right there.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, hi, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Like, wonderful movie. I didn't, and then I just started rambling. I just started
like
rambling.
word vomit?
Like, so underdressed. I thought this was just a regular WGA screening, and it's not. And I'm wearing a sweater from TJ Maxx, and I ran into Anna Wintour in the bathroom. And he just started laughing, and he goes, TJ Maxx? Amal's dress is from TJ Maxx too. It was not, but it was like a joke. And so we're all like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And I'm so like, funny. Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Today, I'm joined by the one, the only Julia Yorks. Julia Yorks is a real life, breathing, making money screenwriter. Okay, she's like actually doing this full time. First, I gotta ask you the preliminary question to make sure that you're qualified to be on the show.
Okay, great.
And if you answer incorrectly, you do indeed have to leave. So the question is, do you know what you're doing?
Not a clue.
Okay, you check box, you're good to go.
Not a clue.
But you do know how to write a damn good script, and we're going to get into that. Julia started her screenwriting career over a decade ago as a staff writer on The Adventures of Puss in Boots. Since then, she's written over 40 episodes of kids animated television across a dozen shows, including Trolls: The Beat Goes On, Skylanders Academy, and Strawberry Shortcake. In 2019, she sold an original live-action sci-fi show to Freeform, and her comedy feature, One Up, was released on Amazon Prime in 2021. Julia currently has numerous feature projects in development with production company and studios like Churnin, Netflix, Black Bear, and Star Thrower. She's also, casually, an actress, most recently appearing in an episode 4 of this season of Law & Order, and it airs tomorrow.
It airs tonight.
Oh, it airs tonight.
It airs tonight.
Oh my gosh, so we're filming this on February 8th?
Yeah, so it airs on February 8th.
So by the time this is out, you can go see Julia in a casual episode of Law & Order, which is so funny because their costume department is in this building.
Is in this building.
Which is crazy.
That's, yeah.
Dun dun.
It's,
I would also like to mention that Law & Order is currently my winter depression show. So
you got a lot of episodes. So there's no...
My husband's like, how are there still episodes? All you do is watch Law & Order every single night. And I'm like... That's why.
It was very tough to DVR this episode because I had to, there is at least one episode of Law & Order airing every hour on multiple channels. So I literally had to find
it.
It was, I couldn't just type in Law & Order because my DVR would be full. My goal in life was to like get into the Dick Wolf family. And so this is the Dick Wolf family. It's to get into the Dick Wolf universe is like every actor's dream, and so I'm very excited that I got to dip a toe into it.
I can't even tell you.
It's life goals, but I will say SVU is like my dream.
Oh, SVU is everyone's dream.
Mariska is on my vision board for 2024. So
they were filming outside this window last week, and I cannot, like, you have to ask my husband. I was like staring out the window all day, and I was like, if I see Mariska, I will literally burst down into tears. I recently learned that she is like the longest, or you would know probably, the longest female character on TV.
She's been on TV for 25 years as Olivia Benson.
And she doesn't look it. She looks
fantastic.
Fantastic.
She really does. And the character, to me, doesn't get old.
No.
And also, I think that it's such a testament to her, and also just brilliant, because a lot of actors or actresses would be like, oh, I'm done playing this character.
I'm over it. Yeah.
She is raking in the dough.
Oh my gosh, I looked up how much money she makes.
I would do it for the next 25 years, Mariska. That's what the people want.
Also, Ice-T.
Ice-T.
He's been doing it just as long.
He has. It's actually insane. So the two of them together, do it until you're season 100. Just keep riding that. That's the goal.
It's funny, like, as a screenwriter, you must admire, or at least I admire, how she's developed the character, but just like you said, it never gets old, yet every episode is exact same.
Yeah, well, that's what's so great. I mean, one of my, I'm sure this is for later, but one of my biggest pieces of advice for newer emerging screenwriters is like, don't poo-poo procedurals, because that is where the money is, network television. And if you can be a staff, like, imagine being a writer on Law & Order SVU for 25 seasons. You are make, and that's the goal.
So is that like the most sustainable way to make a lot of money as a screenwriter?
Yes. It is incredibly difficult to make a lot of money as a screenwriter. It is easier to make, it's a very feast or famine business. Whenever I talk about the financials of screenwriting, I do this with my hands, and people who know, because it is like, it's just a really tough business. And what is sustainable, what is more stable would be to be on a long running show, which they don't happen as much anymore.
Yeah,
but those network procedurals that run for 23 episodes a season, that run for 25 seasons, that's what you want. And then also, if you have a movie that not only gets bought, but gets made, which is
so rare,
which is very rare,
very rare.
you know, and then that makes money, then you make money. You make a percent, you make money when it goes into production. You make a percent of the production budget, usually with a cap, and then you also make money if it makes money.
This is something I love about Julia, is that she's extremely transparent about everything. And I didn't even finish reading your bio before we got so obsessed with Law and Order. But she's also a content creator on TikTok and Instagram, and she's a screenwriting coach. And she gives the most practical, real world advice. You just keep it so real. You talk. You even she has a series on TikTok where she shows her residual checks. Okay, so I like to do a little fire round at the beginning, just so we can all get to know you and where you're from and your background. So, question number 1 is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Hope, Pennsylvania. It sounds very cute, but it is cute. It's a little quaint town, about 45 minutes outside of Philly.
What did your parent or parents do for a living growing up?
So my dad was a carpenter, and my mom was a special ed teacher in Philly. And then they both kind of pivoted over the years. And now my mom is actually a talent agent in Philadelphia.
Look at that.
I know. It's so funny because it's almost like reverse nepotism, because I was a child actress and she decided she wanted to do it after I had done it for years and years. But it's you know, it's really cool to see that you can kind of reinvent yourself at any age.
So inspiring.
And yeah, she's killing it.
Okay, next question. Did you go to college? And if so, what did you study?
I went to college. I went to 2 colleges.
Ooh, funky.
I went to Northwestern for a year. Actually, I took a year off in between high school and college. And I moved out to LA because I was going to audition. And I was so excited. I got all out there, and the year was 2007.
Nice. Good timing. Yeah.
The writer's strike. For those of you who didn't know, there was a writer's strike in 2007, 2008, and it was a really tough year because all of my friends were at college, and I was like working at the BLT Steak. It's a restaurant that was, you know, on the Sunset Strip at 18 with no friends. So it was really tough. Not the year that I thought it would be.
Character building year. Good for the script. Good for the plot.
Character building year for sure. And yeah, so then I went to Northwestern after that year, and I was a theater major, and I loved the people, but I was so cold. So cold.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I had never spent much time in Chicago.
Yeah.
The hairs in your nose freeze. Like, the hair on your head freezes if it's wet. Your eyelashes stick together. Like, I've never experienced cold like that before in my life. I was sick all the time. And so then I transferred to USC, where it was warm.
And beautiful. And everybody's happy and tan and healthy. What was your first job?
My first job was probably being a kid actor.
And what is your current job?
So currently I am a screenwriter. Right now I have a gig where I was hired to write a script for a production company.
Cool.
I'm really excited about it.
Yay.
And then I also do script coaching, screenwriting coaching on the side. I still act like the Law and Order, and so everything is kind of like a freelance gig for me, which can be tough, but also it's very flexible.
I assume that you always wanted to work in film because you started as a kid. Is that like where you fell in love with the film industry as a little kid?
Yeah, I always wanted to be an actor. That was what I always wanted to do. And because I started at such a young age, it actually felt like one of those tangible things that you could do. And it is really crazy. On my year off, when I moved out to LA, I had met up with a manager before from the East Coast who I was hoping would represent me when I came out to LA. And she said to me, there are 1 million girls in LA who are prettier than you and skinnier than you. Go to college. And it was at the time, again, you're too young for this, but it was at the time when Jennifer Love Hewitt had, like, her bikini photo had been plastered on the cover of People, and she spoke out and was like, I'm a size 4 and what you're doing to women in this industry is insane. And people started rallying behind her. And so I had this like very impassioned speech that I said to this woman on the phone, like, screw you, you're, you know, and I was very proud of myself. And then I hung up the phone and then I got out to LA and she was right. Everyone there were a million girls there who were skinnier than me and prettier than me. And it was just like so interesting that, and then the industry shut down. So there was no real shot of me moving ahead in it anyway. And I took that year and really started focusing on writing. It was always something that I loved to do. I interned at a production company and I would just read scripts. I mean, I was in LA by myself. I always call it my breaking into the house metaphor. Like I couldn't get in through the door, so I climbed in a window. Because once you're in the house, it's a lot easier to move about the premises.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I want to talk about your timeline. Okay, real quick. Okay, so you went to LA for the remainder of college.
Yeah.
You graduated from USC. And then you stayed in California, right?
Stayed in California.
For how long?
11 years. So 11 years total, including the time I was in school.
Okay. And then you moved to New York.
Then I moved to New York.
What was the impetus for leaving LA?
My now husband got into business school at NYU. And so it was one of those things where you're kind of like choosing what your future is going to look like. And also, I will say at the time, that was the year I had sold a show to Freeform, which is exciting. But I was the development was all remote. And so I was like, great, let's do it. So we moved. And as soon as we got here, I was like, I have made a terrible mistake. I had to keep flying out. It was so expensive. Things were not remote. There were no generals. Like it was very, you had to be in person. And I remember on one of my trips out, I flew out to LA and my agent dropped me when I got out there. Hadn't set up any meetings, but dropped me when I was there. And then also I had one meeting that I had set for myself that I was really excited about. And it was on the Warner Brothers lot. And so I pull up in my rented car,
so cool.
more money. But and I pull up and they said, we don't have you on the list. My meeting in the time that I had driven from Santa Monica to the Warner Brothers lot had been canceled.
Oh my gosh, classic film industry.
So not only did I lose my reps that trip, but I didn't the one meeting that I really wanted to go to, I didn't get to go. And then it was COVID. And I was like, oh my God, my career's over. I'm never. And it actually, everything aside, it benefited, I think, a lot of people in that you didn't have to be in LA anymore in order to make your mark. And we can talk about that more too, about what, if you should start in LA. Like, again, I'd been there for 11 years.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think if you want to do television, I think you need to be in LA.
Okay.
I think if you are young and out of college, go. Find a group of friends in college who all want to go together, who all want to be in the entertainment industry. Ideally, one wants to be an agent, one wants to be an executive, and you can all kind of rise up together and help each other. I think it gets a lot harder if you're someone who has maybe already had a career. To want to move to LA and be a PA. That's not really feasible when you're in your 30s and 40s. I think what makes it so difficult is that there's no one clear path in.
Everybody had a different path.
Everybody had a different path. And that makes it exciting for people because, I can do it too, but it also makes it insanely difficult to make it. Because there is no path. Like my friends went to business school. They applied for the consulting internship. They got in.
Boom, boom, boom.
2 years. You figure out what you're going to do. And it's not like that at all with screenwriting.
You have to be scrappy.
You do have to be scrappy and you have to hustle and you have to be able to deliver.
And be resilient in the face of rejection. So I'm curious, you as a screenwriter have faced anybody has faced rejection. How do you deal with rejection?
What's so interesting is I'm a very sensitive person in general. But in terms of professional rejection, I've learned really just to not take it personally.
Uh-huh.
There have only been, I think, 2 jobs in the past 6 years where it was like, gut punch when I didn't get them. Everything else, it's okay. Maybe I watch an hour of Law and Order, and then I say, all right, I gotta keep going.
Gotta keep going.
And I think that's what it is. And I really do believe that. Somebody told me many, many years ago that this industry, screenwriting, entertainment in general, I think, is really about patience, of which I don't have much of.
Me neither.
But it's about who sticks it out.
Yeah.
Like, if you stick around long enough and you have the goods, you will get there.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people can't stick around, and I don't blame them. It's financial drain. It's the instability. If I'm 35, I'm starting to think about having a family and how that works with kind of, it's not like I have paid parental leave, especially if I'm not working. So it's really tough.
Yeah.
But I also I can't see myself doing anything else. Like, I love doing this and I know that I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
But also, like, during the strike, I tried. I was like, okay, cool. Let me see if I can apply for other jobs. And I guess writing scripts isn't really translatable to a lot of jobs. I mean, for me, the narrative is, I help brands tell stories.
You do.
Be it a brand.
Anything is telling a story.
Yeah. Be it a brand that, is Netflix or, I've done some ad work and things like that. But I think a lot of writers during the strike kind of found, what else can I do? So for me, while that is scary, it's also like, well, I have no choice. This has to work.
You just have to be scrappy. And I'm good at being scrappy. I love that. But what I'm not good at is like schmoozing.
I think it's so interesting because like I'm an extroverted introvert.
Okay.
Tell
me about that.
I recharge by being alone.
Okay.
I need my only child time.
So I'm draining you right now.
No,
just draining the life out of you.
No, but I mean, like, it's so nice. But like, in order to recharge, like, I need to kind of replenish my social battery.
I'm the exact same way. Mm-hmm.
But what I am good at is being very, like, amenable and easy to work with.
Ooh, yeah.
So if someone comes to me with an idea, I am very flexible. I'm not. I have a vision, it's not like that vision gets compromised, but I'm really good at taking notes and trying to mold it.
What a skill, though.
Well, but
being able to take feedback.
But you have to. And the way that I look at this job is whoever is paying me as the client.
Yeah.
A production company, a studio, they're the client.
Yep.
Or if we have a director attached, and it's my job to give them what they want.
Yep.
And I have the creative ideas, but if it's not what they want, it's kind of like a big puzzle, and you have to say, how do I give you what you think that you want, even though I know it might be wrong.
Yeah.
But I give it to you in a way where everyone says, oh, great. It's problem solving.
I think, the entirety of the film industry is problem solving.
Yeah.
Like, every single job in the film industry is just problem solving, and making films is problem solving. That's all it is just Sisyphus. But I think you're touching on a really important point that I also adopt as a freelance video editor. Is like, I'm not just here to edit videos for you. I'm here to like alleviate your stress on like this unedited video. I always say like, do great work and be great to work with. And I think that's the differentiator between like a creative that really makes it as a creative and a creative that doesn't. Yeah.
I love that. It also was so interesting. This is a little side note, but when I was just on Law and Order, it was so, and I can say this now because this will air after it has already aired.
No NDA.
I die. I'm not a special victim, but I am.
Tell me you were gonna
I'm a victim. Sorry. You'll see it. You've already seen it at this point. And so it's those that you meet me, and then I die.
Oh my
and then they have like a quippy little thing at the end, which I love. The format of Law and Order Originals recipe is just so funny. But it was so interesting as I'm laying on the ground, which again is like a lifelong dream of mine to be a body on Law and Order.
Oh my gosh.
Very exciting.
Check that off your vision board.
Oh my God. Seriously. And so, but it was just so interesting because everyone on that set is an expert.
Oh.
Everyone is an expert.
They've been doing it forever.
They've been doing it forever,
Yep.
but also everyone is an expert at their job.
Yeah.
And I found it so interesting. Like there was a man there who was a consultant, I believe, who probably like a former Army Marines,
Okay.
who was like, okay, well, if this where she's, spoiler alert, shot, then you know, it would be like stippling like this, or it would be around the blouse this way, and then the makeup artist would come in and they would be like trying to fix it, and like, what do you think about this? And then the costume people, like, it was, everyone is an expert in their field. They make it run like clockwork. And it was so interesting to me because I was like, oh, like this is the entertainment industry at the highest level, even though I think a lot of people would be like, it's a procedural. No, these are well-oiled machines.
They're also making a ton of money.
Making a ton of money. And you have to, if you want to be in this industry, like you have to be on that level.
Yeah. But I'm curious, kind of like the more practical element for anybody watching who doesn't really know anything about the life of a screenwriter. I'm curious if you can kind of explain to people, like, you're signed to an agent, you're part of the WGA. Like, what are those elements of your, because you are self-employed technically,
Yes.
but you're also part of a union. So can you explain that?
Yeah, of course. So as a professional writer, typically you would have either an agent or a manager or both. You also typically have an entertainment attorney.
Okay.
And they're actually the most important people in your arsenal because they get you the money.
We love our lawyers.
We love our lawyers. And so, but something that I think a lot of people don't realize is when I get a check in the mail, or when I get a check when I get paid, 25% of it is already gone.
Yep.
Agent, manager, lawyer. Boom, gone. So that's tough.
And they're taking it out before it comes to you?
They take it out before it comes to you.
Yep, same with me.
And that's why a lot of writers, once you hit, and creatives, once you hit a certain level of income, you incorporate. Mm-hmm. So I'm an S Corp, which means that, you know, it's just helping for tax purposes. So that's an interesting factoid.
Yeah. So you have like an accountant or bookkeeper.
Yeah. So that's more money that's
Same
going
with
away.
me.
So when you're not making, and look, as I said earlier, what you make the most money on, and I'm primarily in features at the moment.
Okay.
So what you make the most money on is if that movie goes into production.
Okay.
Or then if it gets made and you get it theatrically released in the back end.
It's funny that people like a lot of, you can write a lot of stuff that never gets made, but it still gets bought. So that's a good distinction to make for people who don't get that.
Most projects that are sold are never made.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And you really only make the money and get the notoriety when it gets made. And within the industry, now I'm at a place where I've worked with so many of these big companies. People have read these scripts. Also, creative execs of companies are like floating around all the time.
So that's why you should never burn bridges, y'all.
Never. So it's agents, managers, entertainment lawyers. Your agent and manager, they serve essentially similar roles. I'm at CAA, which is very exciting.
Which is, CAA is like one of the top, if not the top. It's amazing.
It is. It's really exciting. And it took me many, many years to get there.
And that's your writing agent, not your acting
writing
agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Writing agent. And so...
do they call them a lit agent?
Lit agent.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's my lit agent. And then I'm at RMG for a management company. And I think... typically your agent is someone who, especially if you're at a bigger agency, they're more talking to get you like meetings, and once you get jobs, they kind of handle that. Yeah. And then typically your managers are more hands-on, reading your work, kind of career development. Like if you need a good cry, call your manager. But I feel really lucky that I feel like my agents and managers are both very hands-on.
That's
so,
great.
Or all, because there's multiple of them, but they're very hands-on.
Joining the WGA, just a feather in your cap, or do you get benefits?
You get benefits.
Okay.
You get really great health care, and...
you get great health care.
Great health care.
Okay.
You get great health care.
Look at that.
I'm actually on my husband's health care, so I don't even know.
Okay.
Because he gets better health care. But you do get great health care. You get pension, things like that.
Okay.
And there are certain rates, so you can note there minimums.
Stronger negotiation. And you pay your dues every year?
Your dues, and your dues it's like $40 a quarter, but then a percentage of whatever you have made that quarter. So it can add up if you're making a lot of money. But if you're making no money, then it's fine.
So you mainly are in front of your laptop every day. Like, I was curious about, I think when exposing people to new careers, like, what kind of person do you think would be a good screenwriter? Is it somebody who is perfectly content sitting in front of their computer all day? Like, is that what you're doing?
Yes and no, because you have to have some life experience or, like what imbues your work with a sense of you and your writing is having lived experience and having a sense of self. So yeah, I mean, I think like a love of TV shows, a love of movies, a willingness to be self-motivated and work because
to really want it.
Yeah. In the beginning, no one's standing over you saying, I need the script by this time. Yeah. You have to do it yourself.
I'm curious, the discipline, the motivation, how do you find the motivation to write? Or maybe when you get writer's block, like how do you find that inspiration?
Well, writer's block, I think there are always 3 things that I do that help me get over writer's block.
Okay.
Go take a walk. I watch a comp of what it is I'm working on. So if I'm watching like a thriller, I'll turn on a thriller and it kind of helps me see what they did to solve some problems. Mm-hmm. Also taking a shower.
Oh my gosh, showers.
It's where my mom always said, take a hot shower, you'll feel better.
So I'm wondering if as a screenwriter you ever deal with imposter syndrome. I hear from a lot of people, especially in the film industry, like I don't belong here, I'm not good enough, there's so many people who are better than me. And we all know that those are toxic beliefs and that we shouldn't lean into those. And yet we still do at some points. So what are your thoughts on imposter syndrome and any advice?
Every time I get hired to write a new script, I'm like, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. Why did they hire me? I don't know how to do it. And then I just get over it. Like, and I know that's not really helpful, but I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like I've done a lot of the work. Yeah. Again, in this career, you have to be super self-motivated and very disciplined. Yeah. And I kind of just tell myself, like, knock it off.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Stop it.
Between working in the film industry, being a content creator, and living in New York City, like, you can't hurt my feelings anymore. Like, no one can hurt I can't be offended by anything, but I can still, like, hurt me on the inside.
Yeah.
Like, I'm my own worst critic.
No, and I think there's just so much rejection in my professional life that I'm very sensitive to it in my personal life. Like, even, like, friends, like, are you hanging out without me? Like, I get very hurt by things, and I think it's because all of my resilience is in this career. Yeah.
So you, like,
big crier.
Out. My therapist told me she was like, when was the last time you cried? And I was like, I literally can't tell you the last time I cried. That wasn't like a dog video on TikTok. For people listening, when you reference the strikes, they might be familiar because they heard it all over the news. Can you just kind of give a little summary there of kind of what went down? There were 2 strikes, SAG and WGA. Yes. Can you explain those?
Yeah, and I'm a member of both unions. So I was doubly striking, which was particularly rough. But so the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA, they both ended up striking each for about 6 months, some overlap. And we were striking for a bunch of different things. I am very proud of the unions. For my personal career, it was devastating.
Yeah.
It was devastating. And to be honest, for me personally, at the place that I'm at right now, maybe I'll feel differently in a couple of years. For me, it wasn't worth it.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is kind of a controversial opinion.
I'm sure lots of people feel like that, though.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't financially worth it, and
just from what you lost out on during that period.
Yeah. From the momentum I lost in my career, from the financial aspect, I think a lot of people are still trying to recover from it.
Yeah,
it's very scary that there's a potential next strike for
gosh.
IATSE coming up. Like, it's just, I think a lot of working writers felt similarly. I think a lot of the younger writers who were newer and the older writers who were more established and already have a lot of money.
They don't have as much to lose as you did.
But in the middle, when you're still trying to hustle and the career is getting harder and harder with every passing year, it was really tough. It was really tough. And I feel please don't cancel me. But I'm a union girl. My dad was a union carpenter. My mom was a union teacher. But it just, it really took a toll. My mentality is that all I can do is my best in life. All I can do is my best. And I give my best because I want this so badly. I want you know, and it's a little bit, it's probably toxic. They say jump, I say how high. Yep. And because I want it and I know I can do it and I know I can show them. And when the strike was so tough because that potential for things, that hope was gone. There was nothing going. Yeah. And what keeps you going in this industry is the potential that this is going to be the thing that sells, especially when you're at a level like me where you have sold a bunch of stuff and where it does look like things can go.
You can build that sustainable career.
Yeah. And I really do believe, and maybe this is naive, but I really do believe that if you work hard enough and if you are smart enough and if you are good enough, right? Like, I really do believe that it can happen. Yeah. And so I really try to tune out all the noise about, you know, like, streaming is killing the industry and everyone's upset. And it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do about that.
It's just not very productive to me. It's like, okay, we know where the problems are. Let's find the solutions here. Yeah. And people still want movies and TV shows. They're still getting made. Yes. People are still getting paid to make them.
So why not me?
You can just be one of those people.
And that also is what delusional people say about the lottery. So,
hey, someone's going to win it.
You know?
Why
not me?
A lot of times people will ask me, you know, why do you live in New York? And it's really hard to describe to people who don't live here because it sounds so difficult. It's expensive, it's loud, it's dirty, it's cold, it's dark, and the people are not mean, by the way. No. They're just direct. They're not mean, they're just direct. They say exactly how they feel in the moment, which I love. You recently had a quintessential New York City night, and I think everybody who doesn't understand like why anybody would ever live in New York City needs to hear this story because it is the funniest
I'm so glad. Okay. So it's funny because it's an intersection of like New York and the industry. So very recently I was going to a movie screening. So as a WGA member, you get invited around award season to all of these screenings of awards movies because they want you to vote for them. And you also get them straight to your TV.
Cool.
So I just mostly watch them at home. Again, social battery low.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, I decided that I was going to go to. It was for The Boys in the Boat, which is an Amazon movie. It was directed by George Clooney.
Okay.
And it is about like World War II era members of a crew team. Okay. And I have a movie. I always say, watch your comps. I have a movie in a similar vein. Okay. So I thought, okay, let me go check it out. Yeah. And it was also being held at the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art.
Okay.
I am embarrassed to say that I've never been there.
That's okay.
But I live on the Upper East Side. I was like, perfect, let me go.
A night at the MoMA. Is this like a Thursday?
It was a Wednesday night.
Oh my gosh, it was a Wednesday.
A Wednesday in New York. I'm home alone. Wednesday. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. So I RSVP'd and I got back this response. And on the response, it had a dress code. It said smart chic. Okay. I misread it as just smart. Okay. Reading is fundamental. And so I'm running out the door and I almost decided not to go.
Okay.
But I decided to go and I'm wearing black trousers and a black TJ Maxx sweater. The TJ Maxx of it all is very important. And black Sambas. So
you were New York chic.
I was New York chic.
Black on black.
One thing I will say is I do look like I looked like I was working the event as opposed to being in attendance, but you'll see. But my thought process was I'm going to be sitting for 3 hours.
Yeah,
I want to be comfortable and it's cold outside. Yeah. So I race over and again, these WGA screenings are so casual. Like people come in sweatpants and typically there's a speaker, like maybe one of the actors or one of the producers will come and do a Q&A, but you're not interacting with them. It's very casual. And, but I immediately knew that this was unlike the other screenings when I got there and there was a barricade outside and there were people like cheering and waiting for someone
like, for
important.
Me? Oh, you shouldn't have.
Well, I just was like, oh no. Like, oh no. And I peek in through the window and there are people in like suits and ties and gowns and there's a step and repeat. So like when you walk past and everyone takes your picture, I was like, oh my God, this is the premiere of this movie. This is not just a screening. So I walk in, I get my tickets. They actually gave me 2 tickets, but I was there by myself.
Sure about me.
Great. I had a coat chair next time. And I'm sitting front row. I'm sitting A1. So I'm right in the front, and I am so underdressed.
And you're on full display.
I'm so underdressed, and I'm in the front row.
Yeah.
And so I start texting my husband, and I'm like, I think I'm at the premiere of this movie. And then I go to the bathroom to try to make myself look somewhat more presentable. I found a red lipstick in the bottom of my purse.
Nice.
And I, do a little elevated red lip. As I'm dabbing, I look in the mirror, and I see this woman come out of the bathroom stall with just an absolutely iconic bob.
Ugh.
It was Anna Wintour. Not wearing the glasses, might I add.
Not wearing
glasses. So she put them on to fire everyone at Vogue, but she left them off to use the restroom.
Wow.
And
what did her eyes look like?
I was like, is that her? Because she wasn't wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
Is that her?
But the bob.
The bob was iconic. And so I'm sitting there like, and she looks stunning.
Yeah.
And I think her daughter was there too. And I was like, ugh.
Amazing.
And so I run back to my seat, and then I start texting everyone I know. Like, I'm at a premiere, and I'm so underdressed, and I think I just met Anna Wintour, and I'm wearing a TJ Maxx sweater. And I keep looking up at Anna, and it's definitely her. She puts on her glasses. And all of a sudden, Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig walk in. And then Austin Butler walks
bathroom?
in. No.
Oh.
No. We've left the bathroom. Cut to, I'm back in my seat, front row.
Okay.
And so then I'm sitting front row, and all of a sudden the lights dim, and this woman comes up to stage. This is Jen Selke, the head of Amazon. So
Casual.
if I'm trying to sell something to Amazon, she is my lady.
Yeah.
And she just introduces the one, the only George Clooney. I am in seat A1. This podium is like closer than where you are sitting right now.
No, did he like spit on you when he was like talking? Like,
This man is gorgeous. Like, this man has aged like fine wine or fine tequila, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And but the one kind of saving grace for me was he was wearing jeans. And so I was like, all right, I'm not that underdressed, but the two women behind me were like wearing furs. Like, it was, so the lights dim, the movie plays. And then when the curtains come up, I was like, wow, this in and of itself is like the coolest Wednesday of my life.
Yeah.
And there's an older man next to me, and we get to talking, and he goes, oh, so are you going to the after party? And in that moment, I had a decision to make. And I just said, yes. Yes, I think I am.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
I'm
I
hosting
am.
it.
And I followed the crowd as they left, like a weirdo. I'm just like by myself stalking these people, and it walks down Madison Avenue.
Like a caravan of celebrities?
It was a clump of people. So these were like other just people at the screening, because the celebrities had kind of stayed behind, or people had left early. And so I was just kind of following everyone, and we went in kind of a big clump, and we ended up at the Polo Bar. And if you're not in New York, the Polo Bar is like a very, it's a Ralph Lauren, very exclusive, very swanky, very chic, like impossible to get into. I've gotten in once. I got one reservation once.
Wow.
Have never been able to get in since, except for this night. And I get up to the door, and I there's a group in front of me, and they're all like, oh, we're on the list. And so they walk in, and I see this woman standing there with a paper. And in my mind, I was like, your name is not on that paper. I just knew it.
Yeah.
My name was in the computer when they were signing me in.
Okay.
I'm not on that paper. So I walk up, and I'm like, hi, Julia Yorks. And she goes, ooh, I don't have you here.
Sunk.
And I was like, oh, that's so crazy.
That's so
weird.
weird.
So weird, because here are my tickets. I was just at this event.
Ooh, that was smart thinking.
Right? Because I'm like, look,
Here's
I'm not
proof.
Here's proof. I'm not trying to be made a fool of here. Like, I will go. I will not make a scene. But she's like, oh. And then while I was waiting in line, I had checked my phone. That thing where it said, I thought it said smart, but it actually said smart chic. There was a name at the bottom of it. It was like Amber or Ashley or something.
Okay, we love her.
And so I was like, oh, here's my email from Ashley.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, Ashley. Okay, great. Let me go check with her. She's inside. No, please don't check with Ashley. I don't know her.
Check with Ashley.
I don't know this woman. And so she starts to walk inside, and I was like, cool. I'll see myself out. And this other group of guys came up behind me, and they were friends with one of the actors in the movie. They had been at the screening. They were told they could go into this thing, but they were not on the list either. Ooh. So she got kind of flustered, and she was like, all right, let's all go in. Just give me your names.
Yeah.
So we stormed the Bastille, and we went downstairs, and It was so cool. It was so cool. Like to be in the Polo Bar is so cool, but then to be at a private event at the Polo Bar
with
like
George Clooney.
With George Clooney. Well,
Wait,
literally there was like a tower of seafood. Big crustacean fan.
Yeah.
Like
huge
shrimp,
crustacean girl.
Shrimp, lobster, like everything that you could want. They were coming around with their little appetizers. I always say that like there was a moment where, like I said, I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
So going to this thing by myself was very scary.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. And so I tried to make small talk with people. I had a drink or two.
For sure.
But for the beginning of the party, it was just me eating shellfish in various locations.
Yeah, so like a lobster over here, a shrimp over there.
Yeah, like I was like finding seats and eating. And at one point I ended up sitting at a seat where all the food was coming out. And so it was like an episode of I Love Lucy where I was just like eating. They were giving me everything. Finally, I had to be like, guys, please no more.
Please, no more crustaceans.
Please stop. This is embarrassing.
Full of oysters.
This is embarrassing. But also at this party were Katie Couric.
Oh my gosh.
Austin Butler, Kaya Gerber, Noah Baumbach, Greta Gerwig. They were all there. And then, of course, George and Amal were there. George and Amal were there.
Big Amal stan.
She is the most stunning person I've ever seen in real life. Gorgeous. Like
She has it all.
Where do those twins come from? I don't know.
It came out of thin air.
She's stunning. And she looked gorgeous. She was wearing this pink feathery
Oh my gosh.
dress. We were exact opposites. I was wearing all black and a big sweater, and she looked stunning. I made two friends and ended up talking to them for the rest of the time.
How did you go about that? Did you just insert yourself into a conversation?
I thought that they were with the guys that I had met coming in, and it turns out that they weren't.
Okay.
And then it turns out that one of the guys was an alumni of my high school.
Cool.
Like years after me.
Yeah.
But we just hit it off because we knew a bunch of the same people.
Okay.
So it was great. All three of us ended up talking for hours.
Okay. Probably because they were in the same boat as you.
Yes.
They were like, I don't know anybody either.
Yes. And it was so much, I had a blast.
Yeah.
And I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, the night is wearing down.
Okay.
And everyone has talked to George Clooney. Like everyone in this place has said hello to George. I need to shoot my shot and I need to go talk to George.
I would be so shy.
So I went to the bathroom and then I came out and he and Amal were just standing right there.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, hi.
Oh, hey, old friends, Georgie.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Like, wonderful movie. I didn't, and then I just started rambling.
Yeah,
I
just
started
like
rambling.
word vomit.
Like, I didn't expect to be here, but I'm so underdressed. I thought this was just a regular WGA screening, and it's not. And I'm wearing a sweater from TJ Maxx, and I ran into Anna Wintour in the bathroom. Like, literally, like, could not stop myself. And I was like watching myself in my head, like stop,
And
stop,
they're
shut
both
up,
like,
shut up.
They're like looking at
They're
you.
looking
They're
at me.
both looking
They're
at
like,
you at the same time.
They're so yes. And he just started laughing, and he goes, "TJ Maxx, Amal's dress is from TJ Maxx too." It was not, but it was like a joke. And so we're all like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And I'm so like, funny. Oh my God, that's so crazy. And we talked about the fact that I saw Anna Wintour in the bathroom. And then Amal kind of chatted with me one-on-one in a moment I will never forget.
Oh my gosh.
And she told me that I looked chic.
Then you looked chic.
She said I looked chic.
That's that.
So Amal said I looked chic in my TJ Maxx sweater. And then the craziest thing was, I made a TikTok video about this, and the part that was so nuts. So I go home that night. I am floating on a cloud.
Yeah.
I was just
You just
over the
floated
moon.
home.
Over the moon.
Yeah.
And the next day, I was very hungover after one tequila drink and two champagnes. Granted, they were serving the champagnes at the end in like a wine glass. So maybe that will account for it.
Yeah.
Very hungover, laying on the couch, get the call that I booked Law & Order.
No, I didn't know that.
After my most amazing night, get the call that I booked Law & Order. And then I decide to go in and check my vision board that I had made at the beginning of 2023. And there is a picture on my vision board of George freaking Clooney, which to me was just so crazy. And it wasn't that I wanted to meet him. It was that I have a rom-com that I wanted to sell, and I didn't sell it, but
you will.
So you have to be very careful about what you put on those boards. And yeah, so it was just this crazy full circle moment. It was such a crazy Wednesday night in New York. And I really feel like being in New York gave me the confidence.
Yeah.
Because,
Things
you know,
like
in
that just
LA,
happen.
well, in LA, you'd have to drive somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
I walked in
Yeah.
and I said, no, I deserve to be in this room. And it was really crazy. It was a night I will not soon forget.
I love that story so much. That is just the best New York City night, and that is the reason why we choose to live here, because you can just casually hang out with George Clooney at Polo Bar on a Wednesday night.
It also just is, there's like an energy to the city. I love LA, but when I go there, it makes me feel like such a degenerate when I come home, because like everyone's in bed by 10. Like the bars are closed.
In LA?
Like, yeah. Like this was a night that just, it was a Wednesday night. I got home at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Who is she?
Everyone's down in New York.
Everyone
down.
is down.
I always say, I mean, no hate to LA. I mean, I think my friends who live in LA, they're so happy and healthy. And I just love that. I think if I moved there, I'd probably be a lot happier and healthier. But there's something about New York. I always say in LA that people will say they'll come to your birthday party and they won't. In New York, they'll say that they're not coming to your birthday party and they will.
I love that. I think that is one of the best classifications of
Again,
New York versus LA I've ever heard.
No offense to anybody living in LA. I'm going to LA in a few weeks. My husband's running the LA Marathon.
No way.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. So the last thing that I want to do with you is co-author a bit of advice.
Okay.
So I crowdsource conundrums from my following, and I saw this one, and I thought that you would be an excellent person to weigh in on this.
I'll try.
Okay. So it says, Dear Erin and Julia, I'm in my mid-20s, graduated college during COVID, and have no idea what I want to do with my life. I'm feeling a bit lost. I've had 2 jobs in marketing, but I'm not really passionate about it, and most days I just feel like I'm going through the motions. I see my friends from college who seem to have it all figured out. Friends, careers that are cool, they travel, they have boyfriends, and even husbands. I feel like I'm falling behind. I do everything right. I exercise, get plenty of sleep, eat healthy, work hard, and I even go to therapy. I feel overwhelmed because I don't know what the next step is, because I don't really know what I want to do next. How do I find a sense of direction when it feels like I'm not passionate about anything? I've never been in love, my family is small and far away, I don't have any great friends who live near me, and my job is bland. What do I do?
Oh my God. First, I want to say that I think a lot more people feel that way than you realize. And 25 is very young, and I know that probably sounds like not helpful advice, but you don't have to have it all figured out. No one has it all figured out. No one knows what they're doing.
We didn't even plan that.
No one knows what they're doing. It's really hard when you feel like you're falling behind, but you're not behind. You're just in different places, and that's okay. And I would really try to find people who are in the place that you are in, so that you don't feel like you're competing with other people. And I think that you'll find that there are a lot of people who are in the place that you are in.
Yeah, and it's funny. I feel like we tend to compare our timelines to other people's timelines, but we don't actually know what their expectations are or what the intricacies of their life are.
Yes.
For example, you can compare your relationship status to your friend's relationship status. Meanwhile, they're comparing their career status to your career status. And you might be ahead of them in one area, and they might be ahead of you in another area, but life isn't a race to death. Like death is not hopefully the end finish line that we're all trying to race to. It's about enjoying the journey, which sounds so cheesy. But I recently heard somebody, like an old woman on TikTok, you know, they always pick up the phone sometimes and they give advice. And she just said, my biggest regret in life is just being in a rush and just not enjoying the journey, because like inevitably you were going to be looking back at your 25-year-old self, just like you were, and saying, oh, was this year where I was so lost? My dad always says, confusion is the greatest state of learning, which is true.
I love that.
And you're building character, you know? So you got to think it's good for the plot.
It is. You got to do it for the plot. But I also, I so resonate with the thought of you're doing everything right and it's just not working.
Yeah.
I feel that in my bones. And I still feel that at 35, which I don't know if that's any consolation. But there is no right. There is what you want and what feels good for you. And if you're doing things that are right, that don't feel right, you don't have to do them. You don't have to do them. And one of the things is too, like, there is something so interesting. And we were just talking about this with the job versus career. Is there something about your job that you like? Is there a facet of it? Do you like the fact that the hours are easier and then you can do a hobby outside of work?
Yeah.
Or do you want your job to be your career that you're super passionate about?
Yeah.
It might take you years to find that thing that you're super passionate about, but that's okay. Like, and it's also okay to have a job and to have something outside of work be more stimulating. I actually think that that's the right move. You're not alone in this at all. And you are doing everything right. And, but that doesn't mean that it's all that's right for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I relate to that so much as a millennial, where we were all like, we got the grades and we went to college and then graduated into a time when the jobs just weren't there.
Yeah.
So it's not about doing things right. It's about doing what feels good for you. And I would try to figure out what that is. You don't have to be the most passionate about your job, but you want to be passionate about something in your life.
Yeah. I love the quote, the trick to having it all is knowing that you already do, which sounds really like, I don't know, flippant, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially when you're struggling really bad. But I do really believe in the power of gratitude as well. I find that really works for me whenever I'm like, things are going right. And it's like, step back here. Wait a second, get some perspective. I find that helping others, volunteering, because sometimes when you're on social media, like, you probably don't follow a lot of people who have it worse than you. Like, you're probably following a lot of people who have it better than you or
That's
equal to you.
true.
So we're just constantly comparing ourselves. Like, also, people aren't posting their full lives on social media.
Yeah. I also feel like I talked to a bunch of friends of mine who are in their late 20s too, but at 25, I can sense from the letter that one of the big things is the boyfriends and feeling like you've never been in love and not having that. And my advice is to not focus on finding the person for the future. Like, if you want to date and do it for the plot. Like, do it for fun, do it for the experience.
Yeah.
Don't try to force everything to be the person.
The one.
Yeah, like, you will find it. You are so young, and I know it doesn't feel like it, but you really are.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to just be with anybody. You want to be with the right person.
Yeah.
It's so hard to feel like you're doing everything right and nothing is working, but it is working. It is working. And if you don't like doing everything right, do a couple things wrong.
Yeah, make some mistakes. Your
20s
are
more
messy.
liberating.
Your 20s are supposed to be like a risk taking. Like, you're supposed to be saying yes to things. Like, go move to Europe, go backpack the Himalayas. I don't know. Do something weird.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is really, really fun.
This was so fun and so informative, and I think the listeners and the viewers will really, really enjoy this. So
I hope
where can people follow you and support you?
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at Julia Yorks. I'm on YouTube at Julia Yorks Writer.
So if you're curious about screenwriting or working in the film industry, definitely connect with Julia because, like I said, she's extremely transparent. She'll tell you exactly how it is today in 2024, which is important. She's an active working screenwriter. So thank you so much again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.